Hey, folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Weekly Movie News Podcast. This week's show brought to you by the Snubs, the Snipes, and the Snoozers. Yes, the big news of the week, of course, were the nominations from the Academy Awards. They brought anger, confusion, tears, and cheers, and, boredom, really. The biggest highlights were that challengers didn't receive a single nomination. Denis Villeneuve didn't get nominated for director, which made Josh Brolin angry. Sebastian Stan was nominated, but for The Apprentice, and not A Different Man. And Emilia Perez was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, sparking outrage from basically the vast majority of the population. But I guess the secret 10,000 voting members of the Academy felt very different. And I mean, if you liked the movie, that's fine, but 13 nominations? Only 9 other movies in history have received 13, and only 2 have received 14. So Emilia Perez now is in the same class as The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and even The Return of the King only had 11 nominations, by the way. Also with 13, Forrest Gump, Mary Poppins, Shakespeare in Love, and the oh-so-forgettable Gone with the Wind. But I guess, to each his own, I guess. So the main nominations are as follows. For Best Cinematography, we have Nosferatu, Maria, Emilio Perez, Dune Part 2, and The Brutalist nominated. For Animated Feature Film, we have Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, and The Wild Robot. The two main talked about there is that one called Flow and The Wild Robot, actually. For Writing Original Screenplay, we have The Substance, September 5th, A Real Pain, The Brutalist, and Anora. For Writing Adapted Screenplay, we have A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. Actress in a supporting role, we have Zoe Saldana in Emilia Perez, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Ariana Grande for Wicked, and Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. Actor in a supporting role, there's Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Edward Norton in Complete Unknown, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, and Yura Barazov for Anora. For actress in a leading role, there's Fernanda Torres in a movie called I'm Still Here. It's a movie that's hugely popular in Brazil, and it's in U.S. theaters now, or at least some U.S. theaters now. Demi Moore from The Substance. Mikey Madison in Anora, who I'm pulling for on this one. Carla Sofia Gaston for Emilia Perez, and Cynthia Erivo in Wicked. For actor in a leading role, we have Sebastian Stan, once again for The Apprentice, not A Different Man. Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, and Adrian Brody in The Brutalist. For Best Directing, we have James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Coralie Farge for The Substance, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Anora, and Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez. So, I mean, if you're asking me, James Mangold doesn't deserve to be there at all. Get Denis in there, but we just have a podcast here, I guess. And the big one for Best Picture, folks, we have the 10 nominated: Wicked, The Substance, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, Emilia Perez, Dune Part 2, Conclave, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, and Anora. So the Oscars here are scheduled for March 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see if we even watch. I mean, we all know the biggest award show was last week on this podcast, the Daily Ratings. So check out what we think are really the movies that should have been talked about, some nominations that should have been nominated for, and of course, the winners. Check out the Tom Dailies last week if you really want to get a feel for the year of 2024. But moving on, in other movie news, we have some reboot news. So Scary Movie is getting a reboot, and Marlon Wayans, Sean Wayans, and Keenan Ivory Wayans, who created the parody franchise in the first place, are penning the script for the new film. Paramount is handling global distribution with Miramax Publishing. Miramax were the ones that distributed the first original films, and the film is slated for summer of 2026. Zach Cregger, director of Barbarian, is going to be directing and writing a reboot of Resident Evil. And a bidding war has broken out of who will make it. So 4 studios, including Warner Brothers and Netflix, are all volleying to make the film. After Crager's success for Barbarian, everybody wanted him on their team, and even his current project called Weapons, starring Josh Brolin and Julia Gardner, had a bidding war when it was first announced, which New Line Cinema ended up winning. That film is scheduled to be released in 2026. And although this isn't quite a remake or reboot news, director Robert Eggers, his next film has been confirmed, and it's going to be a sequel to 1986's Labyrinth, featuring David Bowie and the lovely Jennifer Connelly. The original Labyrinth is about a girl who has to journey through a maze in order to save her younger brother from the Goblin King. So the original was directed and co-written by Jim Henson, and now the new sequel will have Robert Eggers directing and co-writing as well. Eggers, of course, from The Lighthouse and The Northman fame, and also with this year's spooky hit Nosferatu. No other news, no release dates, or additional information is known at this time. Eggers himself says that he has 5 projects currently that could technically be his next picture. So we'll really see when the Labyrinth prequel comes out, but it has been confirmed, and apparently those negotiations are done. So, and lastly, in other news for the week, Sundance Film Festival. We're in the middle of it right now, and it's going to conclude later this week, so not a lot of buzz is coming out of it this year. There's a lot of documentary films being released, and probably the most talked about film is this one called Opus, a horror musical produced by A24. It stars Ayo Edebiri from The Bear and John Malkovich. Looking through this year's slate at Sundance, there's really only one film I think I'm a little excited for. It's called Bubble and Squeak. It's a drama comedy, and the story is this. So, accused of smuggling cabbages into a nation where cabbages are banned, Declan and Dolores must confront their fragility of the new marriage while on the run for their lives. So, yeah, I don't know. It's starring Himesh Patel and Sarah Goldberg, whose most prominent role so far is in that show Barry. But anyway, Bubble and Squeak. Who the hell knows when or if it will hit theaters near us anyway, but now let's just jump on to the latest box office for the weekend. Not a strong box office for this past week, but it is January still. So Moana 2 is still in the top 5 in 5th place. Brought in $4.2 million. Worldwide for that film, it is at $1.02 billion and about $450 million in the U.S. In 4th for the weekend was Sonic the Hedgehog 3 with $5.3 million. That also has hit $450 million, but worldwide. One of Them Days made $8 million for 3rd best of the weekend. Mufasa the Lion King, still cooking a bit, made $8.6 million, and a worldwide total so far $630 million. That's actually, that's got some legs. That's been doing okay. And in the first spot for the weekend was Mel Gibson's Flight Risk with $11.6 million. And honestly, as bad of a week this was for kind of all movies, 11.6 makes it kind of a success for Flight Risk, honestly, since it only had a production budget of $10 million. So I guess there's that. And now jumping into this week's movies for Vincent Daily. So for Thursday's show, we will be covering Flight Risk. And oh boy, I did see that one with him. Also, Steven Soderbergh's new movie, Presence, written by David Koepp. And we're only covering 3 films this week. So for our third, after coming off of A Different Man a couple weeks ago, and in memory of David Lynch, Vin will be rating and reviewing The Elephant Man from 1980. So folks, we'll just leave you here with a quote from a director, and this week is from Robert Eggers. The idea of having to photograph a car makes me ill, and the idea of photographing a cell phone is just death. All right, folks, so that's the first of what will be our weekly news show, and good morning, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I might not be allowed to say that. Okay, so that's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. So, Nope, I guess not that either, damn Roker. Okay, that's all, folks? No. The Daily Ratings weekly movie news podcast. That was it. See you on Thursday.